Hi, Bishop Peter.
G'day, Mark.
And welcome to Faith Questions with Bishop Peter.
Thank you.
This time I want to talk about cancel culture, which is a phrase that's bandied about.
It sure is.
What's your understanding of that?
I understand cancel culture to be when, for some reason, you've made a reasonably public statement, that may be just a public statement amongst your peer group. It could be via social media. It could be literally you've been reported in the newspaper.
Yes.
I don't know, maybe you've stood up in class and said something, and then suddenly there's a kind of pile on. It might be on the comments page of the newspaper, it might be a whole lot of replies below the initial post on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, TikTok and so forth. And basically people say, the effect of what people are saying is, this person should become a non-person in our world, the perfect world we're trying to create, because they've said something that's very, very bad.
Okay, so it's an intolerance.
It is an intolerance.
Right.
It's a refusal really to engage in the possibility of discussion, maybe reasonable questioning.
Okay.
What did you actually mean by
Okay.
that, Mark? It doesn't sound good to me, but I'd love you to explain more. Instead, there's this pile on.
I see. So it's not listening, it's just sort of judging in a sense.
It's
shutting things down.
judgment. It's
Okay.
an instant judgment on
So
what's said.
our young people, for example, at high school or going to university, may, receive some of this kind of backlash against faith. In your experience, does that happen?
I don't personally know of people who've received, so to speak, a cancel culture pile-on because of their faith. But in the wider and more public world, we're sometimes seeing, for example, a politician who, so to speak, puts their head above the parapet and says something like, well, as a Christian who's a politician, I'm against abortion law reform, and then there's a pile-on on that person. Or as a Christian, I think there's a particular way we should approach, say, the complicated Israel-Palestine question, and then there might be a pile-on. So it is quite possible that in a given circle, it could be your class, your university hall, you post something firm and decisive, certain about what you think the Christian faith means on a given issue, and there is this pile-on or backlash, which
And
is
certainly-
called cancel culture.
Right, and certainly when young people especially are sort of making up their mind about their faith, how important it is to them,
Yes.
the risk of going public with that may be such that they almost withdraw and withdraw from owning their faith publicly.
There's a possibility, but remember, the greatest way you can own your faith publicly is in your personal relationships with people face to face. And it's a tricky social media to negotiate. And so probably in some instances, and I say this myself because I'm on Twitter and I have a blog, and I think carefully about what I'm saying, not so much because I don't want to be cancelled, but because it's actually quite tiring having to deal with some sort of pile-on.
Yeah.
And so it's worth thinking about, how could I be clear about my Christian convictions, but maybe phrase what I'm going to say in a way that invites respect, if you like, rather than a pile-on.
Okay.
But I also I think part of negotiating the social media space is to acknowledge that if I say something and then I have a pile-on, even though my Christian friends might really want to, in their hearts, add a supportive comment to me, they're probably afraid that they'll get negative comments against them. And so all too often we see, don't we, if we look at the comments below an article in the newspaper, let alone below something on Facebook, that it's kind of like 100 to 1 the comments are negative rather than 60-40 positive and negative or whatever. And so it's a space to think carefully about. Jesus didn't actually say you're a brave and bold witness if you pop something on Facebook. He said you're a brave and bold witness if you stand firm in your faith and are willing to speak out and not be ashamed of me. And I think the primary way in which we're bold for our faith is in our conversations with people.
Okay.
It is a bit of a rarefied atmosphere, that whole social media thing, about putting views out there. It's slightly different to saying, hey, it's my birthday today, anyone want to wish me a happy birthday? look, I've got this amazing photo of a sunset. You know, social media is great at that point. No one's going to cancel you. But it just becomes this very fraught media. I'm noticing if you put certain views out there that turn out to be not popular. But look, in the last week or two, there have been one or two signs that we're seeing a backlash against the cancel culture. So,
Being cancelled.
you know, this may be a movable phenomenon in our ever-changing culture.
Okay, so I guess the underlying takeaway is, especially for young people who are, you know, have a heart for, especially when they're in that formative stage, is to support them.
Yes.
And resource their faith, and support with a community that's unashamedly Christian.
Absolutely.
And wanting to support people who are in that process of figuring it all out themselves. Yeah. Okay, that's probably enough for today. Thank you for your comments, Bishop Peter.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you.